Have you ever looked at someone you love and quietly asked yourself, why does this hurt so much when I'm giving everything I have? That moment when your heart feels full but your spirit feels empty, that's not confusion. That's clarity trying to speak. Sometimes the deepest pain in a relationship isn't caused by what's done outright. It's caused by what's missing, what you keep hoping will come, what you excuse, overlook, or explain away because you love someone too deeply to admit they might not love you back in the same way. This isn't weakness. This is the cost of loving someone who's using you, even if you don't want to believe it yet. There's a unique kind of heartbreak that happens when you know something's off, but you can't quite name it. You tell yourself he's busy, he's stressed, he'll come around. You give him time, grace, loyalty. You lower your expectations, thinking that's what patience looks like. But deep down, it feels like you're breaking yourself into smaller pieces just to fit into the little space he makes for you. And the worst part, you've convinced yourself this is normal, that this is just how love feels. But it's not. Love doesn't feel like anxiety. Love doesn't feel like waiting to be chosen every day. Love doesn't make you wonder if you're enough. What you're experiencing might not be love. It might be emotional survival. When a man is using a woman, he won't always be cruel. He'll often be kind enough to confuse you, present enough to keep you hopeful, but distant enough to keep you chasing. That's the trap. You're stuck in the gray area between what he says and what he does. You're holding on to potential instead of reality. And every time you ignore that gut feeling, that whisper that says something isn't right, you bury yourself a little deeper under someone else's convenience. But you're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're not expecting too much. You're asking for the bare minimum to feel seen, respected, valued. And if that's not being given freely, it's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of his intention. This is your wake-up call. Because once you recognize the patterns, you can start breaking them. You can stop bending just to feel like you matter. You can reclaim your voice, your strength, your time. Stay with me, because in this video, we're going to uncover the 5 specific behaviors that reveal when a man is using a woman. These are not just signs. They're red flags wrapped in false promises. And once you see them, you can never unsee them. This is more than a warning. It's a path to freedom. By the end, you won't just understand what's happening. You'll be empowered to make the choices that protect your heart and restore your peace. So take a breath. You're not alone. And this moment, right here, could be the one that changes everything. You've given him your time, your care, your loyalty, and he's given you confusion. Promises with no follow-through, sweet words followed by silence. You keep trying to make sense of it, telling yourself love is complicated, that maybe you're just asking too much. But deep inside you feel it, that hollow ache where certainty should live. And here's what you need to hear right now. A man who truly values you won't leave you guessing. He won't give you just enough to stay, but never enough to feel secure. That's not love. That's control dressed as affection. He knows what to say. He knows how to look at you. He knows the exact moment to show up when you're pulling away, when your hope starts fading, when you've had just about enough. Suddenly he's attentive again, he texts more, he's available, and just like that, you're pulled back in. Not because he's changed, but because he senses your distance. This is what it looks like when someone gives the illusion of effort to keep access to you. It's not about love, it's about leverage. A man who is using a woman doesn't need to love her. He just needs to keep her believing he might. That belief is the chain. That hope is the hook. And still, you give him the benefit of the doubt. You say, at least he shows up sometimes. At least he tries. But ask yourself this. Is he truly present or just strategic? Does he reach for you out of love or out of fear that his control might slip away? Real effort doesn't come in waves. It doesn't fade when he's comfortable and spike when he's scared to lose you. Real effort is steady, not selective, consistent, not convenient. You should not have to earn what should be freely given. When someone is using you, they'll always give the minimum required to maintain your hope. They'll do just enough to prevent you from walking away, but never enough to make you feel truly held. It's not that he doesn't know how to be better, it's that he doesn't want to be, not for you. That truth is painful, but it's also freeing. Because once you stop making excuses for his inconsistency, you start reclaiming your own power. You start realizing that love is not proven by temporary effort. It's revealed in daily presence, in sacrifice, in the way someone shows up when there's nothing to gain but the connection itself. You don't deserve almost. You don't deserve half-hearted love. You don't need to prove your worth by tolerating less than you give. If someone only wants you when you're slipping away, that's not a sign to stay. It's your sign to leave. Let that truth sink in. Because the moment you stop accepting effort that's conditional, you open space for the love that's real. You are not hard to love. You're just asking the wrong person to see your value. You speak your truth and he listens, but not really. You open your heart and he smiles, nods, maybe even compliments your honesty. But something feels off. You're pouring out pieces of your soul and he never meets you there. You feel exposed, vulnerable, connected to him in ways that make you believe the bond is growing. But deep inside, you know it's one-sided. You keep peeling back layers, hoping he'll do the same, but he doesn't. He stays hidden behind shallow answers and guarded smiles. That silence you feel after opening up, that emptiness in return, that's not connection, that's extraction. A man who is using a woman often encourages her vulnerability, not because he wants to know her deeply, but because he wants to understand how to keep her emotionally tied. He doesn't offer his own truth, he doesn't open his heart. He gathers your pain like data. Not to hold it gently, but to use it as a map for how far he can go, how much he can take before you break. When someone truly loves you, they meet you in that emotional space. They match your honesty with their own. They speak not just to be heard, but to build trust with you. That mutual vulnerability is the foundation of love. Without it, all you have is performance. And it's easy to convince yourself that he's just private, that he's been through things, that he's taking time. But time is not an excuse for emotional withholding. Real intimacy doesn't delay forever. It doesn't stay safe while you risk everything. If you always feel like you're the one initiating the deep conversations, if you're always the one asking questions, revealing truths, and holding silence that he refuses to fill, know this: love doesn't leave you emotionally starving. Being known is not a luxury in a relationship. It's a right. And if he only wants to hear your story, but never share his own, if he only leans in when you're unraveling, but never lets you see his own scars, that's not closeness, that's consumption. You deserve someone who shows up in their full truth, not just someone who hides behind yours. You are not here to be someone's emotional outlet, someone's source of inspiration, or someone's open book to study without ever turning the page back toward them. The man who loves you will not use your vulnerability as leverage. He will protect it like a treasure. He won't let you stand in the emotional rain alone while he watches from behind a closed door. Real love is mutual exposure, mutual courage, mutual growth. If you feel alone in your emotional honesty, you are not in love. You are in performance mode, auditioning for someone who has no intention of giving you the same depth, and you don't have to stay there. You don't have to keep sharing with someone who only listens to keep you close, not to hold you safe. There's a point where exhaustion starts to feel like love. When you've been carrying the weight of the relationship for so long, you confuse effort with connection. You wake up every day wondering what version of him you'll get. Will he be warm, cold? Will he answer, ignore? You adjust yourself constantly, monitoring your words, your tone, your needs, anything to avoid setting him off, boring him, or pushing him away. You convince yourself this is what it means to fight for love. But love shouldn't feel like walking on a tightrope with no safety net. It shouldn't feel like emotional roulette. When a man is using a woman, inconsistency becomes a tool. Not because he's confused or figuring things out, but because unpredictability keeps you emotionally dependent. The highs feel intoxicating. The rare moments of affection feel sacred. You cling to them, memorize them, replay them when the silence returns. But this is not romance. This is reinforcement. It's the psychological cycle that keeps you hooked. He's not loving you, he's conditioning you. And every time you excuse the lows because of those fleeting highs, you teach yourself to settle for crumbs when you deserve a feast. You may believe that if you love him harder, wait longer, or prove your loyalty more, he'll eventually become consistent. But someone who loves you doesn't need to be convinced to show up. They want to. They do it without needing a reason. They don't make you earn their presence or affection. The truth is, if someone is only consistent when they're afraid of losing you, that's not growth, it's manipulation. You were never meant to spend your life decoding mixed signals or justifying emotional neglect. Your stability should not depend on someone else's mood. Your worth should not be tied to how often someone chooses you. You are allowed to expect consistency. You are allowed to want peace. You don't need to feel guilty for outgrowing chaos. Some people will only offer love that thrives in disorder because they don't know how to function in anything healthy. That is not your burden to carry. That is not your storm to stand in. It's time to stop mistaking chaos for passion. It's time to stop interpreting confusion as complexity. Real love is clear. It's steady. It shows up again and again, not perfectly, but honestly. And if you're always the one initiating, always waiting, always hoping for follow-through, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a cycle. The longer you stay, the harder it is to remember what peace even feels like. But you deserve that peace. You deserve to be chosen, not just when it's convenient, not just when he's afraid of losing you, but every single day by someone who sees you as a priority, not an option. You are not asking for too much. You are remembering what you were never supposed to forget. Your worth, your power, your right to be loved without conditions. When a man is using a woman, the relationship often feels like a one-way street, where effort fuels the connection and his absence is quietly accepted as normal. He doesn't build with you, he benefits from you. Your time, your energy, your presence, he takes them without hesitation, but never matches them. You give, hoping it will inspire him to reciprocate. You believe that your loyalty will eventually awaken his. But someone who is using you doesn't view your consistency as love. He sees it as convenience. He sees it as access. And access without respect is not a relationship. It's a transaction. You might be the one scheduling the plans, checking in, remembering the important dates, doing the emotional labor that keeps things moving, and maybe he shows up, but that's all he does. Show up just enough to keep the illusion alive. You keep filling in the gaps, excusing his lack of effort, telling yourself he's just distracted, tired, going through something, but you've been patient for too long. And deep down, you know that effort is not a skill he lacks. It's a choice he refuses to make for you. Because you're not his priority. You're his backup plan, his source of comfort, his emotional safety net when everything else falls through. Real love is not passive. It builds, it participates, it contributes. When a man values you, he invests in you. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's inconvenient. He doesn't wait for you to initiate. He takes responsibility for showing up fully. When that isn't happening, and you're doing everything to keep the relationship alive, you're not experiencing love. You're experiencing emotional labor dressed up as commitment. And over time, it drains you. It empties your spirit. It teaches you to silence your own needs just to preserve something that's already slipping through your hands. You are not here to be someone's emotional caretaker. You are not here to carry the weight of two people. If he wanted to grow with you, he would plant seeds, not just pick the fruit of your effort. You are not selfish for wanting someone who contributes. You are not demanding for wanting someone who tries. That's not high maintenance. That's basic respect. And if it's always you doing the work, then love isn't being shared. It's being extracted. Stop waiting for him to wake up and see your worth. That moment doesn't come when someone is committed to taking, not giving. You cannot build something meaningful with someone who benefits more from your silence than your boundaries. Your love is not a resource to be used. It is a gift to be honored. Choose yourself, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Not because you're giving up, but because you're finally choosing balance over burnout. You were never meant to do this alone. And the moment you stop forcing effort from someone who doesn't care, you make room for someone who naturally will. There's a kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises, but lingers deeper than any wound. It's the pain of feeling invisible while standing right in front of someone. The pain of being close in body, but distant in soul. You try to connect, to reach him, to feel something real, but every time you extend your heart, it meets a wall. He's there, but not really. He responds, but never initiates. He listens, but never absorbs. And the truth you don't want to admit is that you've become an emotional placeholder in someone else's life. He's not with you for love. He's with you for what you give, what you represent, what he can get without having to fully show up. A man who is using a woman often keeps the relationship in a vague, undefined space. He resists clarity. He avoids commitment, not with obvious rejection, but with distraction. He gives you just enough to stay, but never enough to grow. He keeps the future blurry. He avoids plans, avoids labels, avoids depth, because clarity comes with responsibility. And he never intended to carry that weight. Instead, he uses ambiguity to keep you emotionally tethered. So you stay hoping one day he'll decide, hoping one day things will click. But if someone wants you in their life fully, they won't leave you guessing. They'll show you with intention, not with half promises. You were never meant to exist in emotional limbo. You were never meant to chase someone for basic clarity. Love doesn't need translation. When it's real, it's clear. It's not confusing. It's not something you need to solve like a puzzle. But a man who is using you will never let the relationship settle into peace, because peace doesn't keep you desperate. Confusion does, and the more confused you are, the more likely you'll cling to the potential rather than face the truth. Clarity is your right. Direction is your right. You are not asking for too much when you ask, "What are we?" You are not being needy when you want consistency. It is not clingy to want to know where you stand. If your presence in someone's life feels uncertain, if you constantly have to ask where you fit, that's not a relationship. That's a situation designed to serve him, not you. And the longer you stay, the more you'll lose yourself in the silence between his words, in the pauses he fills with excuses instead of action. You deserve to be someone's choice, not someone's convenience. You deserve answers, not avoidance. You deserve presence, not placeholders. And the moment you stop fearing the loss of someone who never fully chose you, you begin to return to yourself. That's where your power is. Not in being chosen, but in choosing clarity over confusion, truth over illusion, and peace over potential. Walk away from the gray. Walk toward the life where love stands in the open, not in the shadows. There is a difference between being loved and being used. It may sound simple, but when your heart is entangled in someone who gives just enough to keep you close, it's hard to tell the difference. When a man is using a woman, he doesn't always look like a villain. He often shows up smiling, saying the right words, offering small gestures that feel meaningful in the moment. But if you look closer, you'll notice a pattern. His effort always stops where commitment begins. He pulls back when accountability is needed. He becomes unavailable the moment your needs challenge his convenience. You start to feel like asking for anything more is too much. You silence yourself to avoid confrontation. You water yourself down so you won't be left. And little by little, you start shrinking. Not because you want to, but because he taught you that your full self is too heavy to carry. But the truth is, love doesn't require you to disappear. Real love makes room for your needs, your voice, your boundaries. If you have to become less in order to be kept, you're not being loved. You're being managed. And the version of you that stays quiet, that walks on eggshells, that tolerates the bare minimum just to avoid losing him, that version is not the real you. It's the you that was created for his comfort, not your growth. A man who is using you will take your loyalty and turn it into leverage. He'll use your patience to stretch his time. He'll use your kindness to excuse his distance. He'll use your love to buy more of your silence. And every time you forgive without change, every time you stay without progress, you give him permission to keep offering less. Not because you're weak, but because your heart is strong enough to hope. But hope needs direction. And love without respect is just dependency in disguise. You deserve a love that shows up when it matters. Not just during good times, not just when you're easy to handle, but especially when your boundaries require him to grow. If he only stays when things are convenient, when you're pleasing, when you don't ask for more, then you're not in a partnership, you're in a performance. You're not meant to entertain someone's attention, you are meant to build something real. And if he can't meet you there, let him go. There is nothing wrong with you for wanting more. There is nothing wrong with needing clarity, honesty, presence. These are not luxuries. They are the foundation of love. Stop settling for temporary affection that leads nowhere. Stop letting someone rent space in your life while refusing to invest in it. You were born to be loved in full, not in fragments. And when you choose yourself, when you walk away from what drains you, you don't lose love. You finally make space for it. You don't have to keep proving you're worthy of love. The very act of trying so hard to earn what should be freely given is a sign something's broken. But it's not you. It's the situation. It's the imbalance. It's the way you've been taught to equate sacrifice with connection and struggle with meaning. When a man is using a woman, he's not looking at her heart. He's measuring how much he can gain while giving as little as possible. He's not interested in building something together. He's interested in benefiting from everything she brings without ever fully committing in return. He may praise your strength, your independence, your loyalty, but only when those traits serve him. When your strength becomes a boundary, he resents it. When your independence stops serving his needs, he withdraws. When your loyalty demands accountability, he vanishes. These moments reveal the truth. He never admired who you were. He admired what you did for him. And as long as you keep giving while asking for nothing back, he stays comfortable. Not because he loves you, but because he loves the role you play in his life. But love isn't a role. Love is not something you perform. It's something you live. And you cannot live love when you're constantly monitoring your emotions, censoring your truth, or walking on emotional eggshells. The right person will not punish you for being authentic. The right person won't make you question your value every time you express a need. You are allowed to ask for reassurance without being labeled needy. You are allowed to expect consistency without being told you're overreacting. You are allowed to want to feel emotionally safe. Too many women are exhausted from carrying the emotional weight of someone who refuses to meet them halfway. They're tired of waiting for emotional presence that never arrives. Tired of hoping for clarity that never comes. Tired of sacrificing their own well-being to keep a connection alive that only works in one direction. But this exhaustion is not proof of love. It's proof that your soul is starving for mutual effort, mutual respect, mutual care. You are not unlovable. You are just being loved wrong. You don't have to keep fighting for space in someone's life. You don't have to keep bending, shrinking, or silencing yourself to be enough for someone who refuses to grow. There is strength in walking away. There is power in choosing peace over potential. There is freedom in letting go of the illusion that if you just do more, say less, or love harder, things will change. The right love will not require you to sacrifice your dignity, your voice, or your worth. You are not meant to be a convenience. You are meant to be a connection, one that is seen, heard, valued, and chosen, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. The love you deserve will never come from someone using you. It will come when you finally stop settling for anything less. If he only shows up when he needs something, that's not connection. It's control disguised as affection. And too often you convince yourself that these moments of attention mean something more than they do. You take the crumbs and build a feast in your mind, hoping that this time it means he sees you, but he doesn't see you. He sees access. He sees comfort. He sees someone who won't walk away, even when every sign says she should. And that's how using begins. Through subtle permission, through your silence, through the repeated belief that maybe next time things will be different. You start compromising your boundaries just to keep the peace. You ignore the red flags because your heart still believes in the version of him you've created in your head. You make excuses for the inconsistencies because admitting the truth would mean starting over, and that feels too heavy. So you stay. Not because it's fulfilling, but because the fear of being alone whispers louder than the pain of being disrespected. But being alone is not the enemy. Being drained in a one-sided connection is. Being with someone who only remembers you when it benefits him is the slowest form of emotional self-destruction. Every time you accept that behavior, you teach your nervous system to settle for less. You train your mind to tolerate stress disguised as passion, silence disguised as calm, absence disguised as independence. But your body knows the truth. It feels the weight of being emotionally abandoned. It carries the anxiety of never knowing where you stand, and it aches, not because love hurts, but because lack does. The ache you feel isn't from loving too much, it's from being loved too little. And the moment you recognize that, everything begins to shift. You deserve to be chosen when it's inconvenient. You deserve consistency when it's not fun or easy. You deserve to be considered, not just contacted. If he only texts when he's bored, only calls when he's lonely, only shows up when you've pulled away, that's not love. It's manipulation. And no matter how charming it looks on the surface, underneath is a system designed to keep you hooked while giving you nothing that lasts. You are not crazy for wanting more. You are not too emotional for needing real connection. You are not weak for walking away from someone who refuses to meet you at the same depth. Healing begins the moment you stop arguing with reality, the moment you stop trying to convince someone to see your worth and start honoring it yourself. You don't need to perform to be loved. You don't need to prove you're enough. You already are. Let go of the illusion. Let go of the crumbs. Because when you stop settling for attention dressed up as affection, you make space for the real thing. And the real thing doesn't ask you to chase. It meets you where you are, fully, completely, without conditions. When a man uses a woman, the most dangerous sign is not just what he does, it's what he refuses to do. He refuses to be vulnerable, to be accountable, to show up emotionally. He builds walls that keep you out and excuses that keep you guessing. And in the silence of those walls, you find yourself questioning your worth, your judgment, your reality. You begin to believe that maybe you are the problem, that maybe your needs are too much, your feelings too intense, your expectations too high. But the truth is, when someone refuses to engage on a deeper level, it's never because you're asking for too much. It's because he's unwilling to give what love demands. Love requires courage. It requires the bravery to face discomfort, to sit in uncertainty, to be open even when it's risky. But a man who is using you will never take that risk. He will avoid the conversations that matter. He will deflect questions that threaten his comfort. He will prioritize convenience over connection. And you, desperate for love, stay waiting for a man who is too scared to meet you where you are. That waiting chips away at your confidence, your clarity, your courage. It leaves you depleted, doubting your intuition, second-guessing your heart. But your heart was never meant to be a battleground. It was meant to be a sanctuary. You deserve a love that challenges you to grow, not one that forces you to shrink. You deserve a partner who holds space for your vulnerability without turning it into ammunition. You deserve someone who listens, not just to respond, but to understand. Someone who faces conflict with honesty, not avoidance. Someone who chooses growth over comfort, connection over control. Because love is not about convenience, it's about commitment. And commitment means showing up fully, even when it's hard. If he's unwilling to do the work, that's not your failure, it's his choice. You cannot make someone brave. You cannot make someone present. You cannot make someone love you deeply, but you can choose yourself. You can choose the courage to walk away from what drains you. You can choose the strength to demand more than empty promises and surface level affection. You can choose the freedom that comes when you stop waiting for someone else to decide you're worthy. It's time to break the cycle of silence and doubt. It's time to reclaim your power by refusing to accept less than you deserve. Because when you demand honesty, when you hold firm to your boundaries, you send a message not just to him, but to yourself, that your heart is not a playground for manipulation. It is a treasure to be protected. The love you deserve is not the love that's given out of convenience or control. It's the love that requires effort, sacrifice, and courage from both sides. It's the love that sees you, hears you, and chooses you every day, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. You are worthy of that love. You are worthy of being seen, valued, and cherished in your entirety. Never settle for anything less. The deepest form of disrespect is not what is said aloud, but what is silently withheld. When a man uses a woman, he withholds his true self. He withholds honesty, transparency, and emotional availability. This absence is not just a lack, it's a deliberate choice. A choice to keep you at a distance, to protect his own comfort, and to maintain control over the relationship's direction. And in this withholding, you begin to feel invisible, unimportant, like a shadow on the periphery of his life instead of a presence in it. This is not accidental. It's a tactic that keeps you reaching, hoping, and forgiving long after your heart knows better. You may try to fill the gaps with your own effort, trying harder to coax him out, to make him open up, to earn the love that remains locked behind walls. But the walls don't crumble because of your efforts. They crumble only when he is ready to tear them down. Your responsibility is not to break down his barriers. It is to protect your own heart from being trapped behind them, to protect your own light from being dimmed by someone unwilling to shine alongside you. Your worth is not tied to his willingness to reveal himself. Your value is not contingent on his capacity to be present. There is a powerful difference between distance and absence. Distance is temporary, filled with the promise of return and connection. Absence is permanent, marked by silence and evasion. When someone is using you, they choose absence disguised as distance. They disappear when you need closeness and reappear only when it benefits them. This cycle of absence and presence is confusing and exhausting. It teaches you to live in anticipation of crumbs, to mistake flickers of attention for steady flames. But your heart deserves a fire that burns consistently, not a light that flickers out when it's inconvenient. You have the right to be fully seen and fully known, to have your needs met not out of obligation but out of desire, to be loved not in fragments but wholly, to expect presence without apology and truth without disguise. This is not an impossible demand. This is not asking too much. This is simply honoring the basic human need for connection, respect, and authenticity. When a man chooses to withhold these things, he is choosing to use, not to love. You must stop accepting silence as an answer and absence as affection. You must stop allowing his refusal to be present to diminish your sense of self. When you demand transparency, you are not being difficult, you are honoring yourself. When you hold firm to your boundaries, you are protecting your soul. When you walk away from the relationship that thrives on withholding, you reclaim your power. You open the door to love that is honest, open, and mutual. And that love will never make you question your worth. It will never leave you wondering if you are enough. It will not need to be hidden behind walls or excuses. Your heart deserves no less. Your spirit craves no less. And the moment you choose to stop waiting for someone to reveal what they never intended to give is the moment your healing begins. When a man uses a woman, his words often ring hollow, wrapped in promises that dissolve at the first sign of responsibility. Empty words are the easiest way to keep you tethered without commitment. He tells you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. His language is crafted to soothe your doubts while avoiding the truth. This pattern is not accidental. It's a subtle form of control. Words become tools of manipulation when they are used to placate rather than to connect. When you find yourself constantly questioning if what he said means anything at all, it's a clear sign you're being taken for granted. Trust is built on consistency between words and actions. Without that alignment, words lose their meaning and your heart begins to distrust even its own hope. When promises are made and broken repeatedly, your mind starts to believe that love is conditional, dependent on its convenience rather than your worth. This belief erodes your confidence and makes you accept less than you deserve. You settle for the idea of love rather than the reality of it. But love is not about settling. It's about standing firm in the truth that you are worthy of honesty and respect. There is power in recognizing when words are not backed by actions. It is the moment you choose clarity over confusion, reality over illusion. When you refuse to let empty promises dictate your value, you reclaim control over your heart. You teach yourself that love is not something to be begged for or pieced together from fragments of truth. It is a whole, unwavering force that requires sincerity and courage from both people involved. It's natural to want to believe in the good intentions behind his words. You want to trust because trusting is how we connect. But trusting blindly, especially when the evidence contradicts those words, is a form of self-betrayal. When someone repeatedly says one thing and does another, they are not caught in circumstance. They are choosing not to honor you. And every time you excuse that choice, you give away your power to demand better. You give away your right to a love that is real, honest, and reciprocal. Your heart is not a playground for deception, nor is it a place to endure cycles of disappointment. You deserve a love that speaks truth as loudly as it shows care. A love that delivers on its promises without hesitation or excuse. A love where words and actions dance together in harmony, creating a foundation of trust that allows you to feel safe, seen, and cherished. It takes courage to walk away from the comfort of familiar lies, to face the discomfort of truth, and to demand what your soul craves. But that courage is the key to breaking free from being used. It is the key to opening the door to genuine love. Love that doesn't need to be earned, manipulated, or begged for. Love that chooses you fully every day in word and deed. Remember, your worth is not measured by the promises someone fails to keep. It is measured by your willingness to never settle for less than you deserve. When someone is using you, their attention is conditional, offered only when it suits their needs, withdrawn whenever it demands effort. This kind of selective attention teaches your mind to crave approval that comes in fragments rather than in full presence. You start living for moments that feel like connection but are really just brief interruptions in a pattern of neglect. This creates a cycle where your emotional well-being becomes dependent on inconsistent signals, leaving you anxious, confused, and perpetually uncertain. But your heart is not designed to survive on scraps of attention. It longs for steady light, for consistent recognition, for a presence that feels like home rather than a puzzle to solve. When attention is used as a tool to manipulate or control, it loses its sacred power. Genuine attention is an act of love. It means truly seeing another person, listening without distraction, responding with care. But when it becomes a currency exchanged only when convenient, it becomes a weapon. You begin to doubt yourself, wondering why you're not enough to hold their focus all the time. You question your own worth because the attention you crave is met with silence or withdrawal more often than with warmth and interest. This is emotional starvation, and it is just as damaging as neglect. Your soul needs nourishment, not sporadic validation. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward healing. You must refuse to be a placeholder for attention that comes and goes on someone else's terms. Your time, your energy, your presence are not commodities to be traded for fleeting moments of acknowledgement. You deserve someone who chooses to be present not because they have to, but because they want to. Someone whose attention is a gift, freely given without expectation of something in return. This kind of attention builds trust, nurtures intimacy, and fosters genuine connection. It does not drain you, it fills you up. You have the power to break free from the cycle of conditional attention by reclaiming your right to be fully seen. This means setting boundaries that protect your emotional space, saying no to half-hearted efforts, and yes to relationships where your presence is valued every day. It means refusing to accept moments of attention as proof of love when they are inconsistent and lacking depth. True love does not flicker, it burns steady. It does not retreat when challenged, it stands firm. Your soul is worthy of unwavering attention, not because you are demanding or difficult, but because you are human, deserving of respect, kindness, and genuine care. When you stop chasing after someone's attention and start investing it in yourself, you create a foundation for healing and growth. You teach your heart that it does not have to settle for less. You open space for relationships that honor your worth and meet your needs fully. This shift is not easy, but it is necessary, because only when you demand real attention can you begin to experience real love. And real love is the only love that can transform your life. When someone uses you, their respect is conditional. It exists only as long as it serves their purpose. Respect isn't something they give freely, it's something they grant selectively, often as a reward for compliance or silence. This kind of respect is hollow. It's a mask worn to maintain control, to keep you compliant, to make you doubt your own worth. True respect, however, is unwavering. It does not fluctuate with convenience or control. It does not diminish your voice or your boundaries. It lifts you up, honors your feelings, and values your presence without hesitation. When respect is absent or conditional, your self-esteem begins to erode. You start questioning your worth because respect is the foundation upon which confidence is built. Without it, you feel small, invisible, and insignificant. You might convince yourself that the disrespect you experience is normal or deserved because that is easier than facing the painful truth, that you are not being valued for who you are. This is a form of emotional erosion, quiet, gradual, but deeply damaging. It chips away at your sense of self until you barely recognize the person you once were. You deserve respect that does not waver, that does not depend on your performance or his mood. You deserve to be treated with dignity simply because you exist. This kind of respect is not negotiable, it is fundamental. It means your feelings matter, your opinions are heard, and your boundaries are honored. It means you are not an option or a convenience, but a priority. When respect is given freely and consistently, it creates a safe space where love can grow and thrive. Without it, love becomes fragile, conditional, and unsafe. Recognizing when respect is withheld is an act of courage. It means refusing to accept anything less than you deserve. It means standing firm in your truth, even when it feels lonely or difficult. Respect is not something you earn by sacrificing yourself or changing to fit someone else's desires. It is your birthright. And when you claim it fully, you send a powerful message, not just to those around you, but to yourself, that your worth cannot be diminished by another's inability to honor it. Walking away from a relationship that lacks respect is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength. It shows that you value yourself enough to demand better. It shows that you refuse to let someone else's disregard define your worth. This choice is the beginning of healing, the first step toward rebuilding your confidence and reclaiming your power. When you surround yourself with people who respect you fully, you create an environment where your spirit can flourish and your heart can heal. Never settle for less than unwavering respect. Your soul deserves a love that sees you, honors you, and values you completely. This kind of love is rare, but it exists. It starts with you choosing to stop tolerating disrespect. and start demanding the respect you were always meant to have. This choice will transform your life because respect is not just a boundary, it is the foundation of every healthy, loving relationship. Claim it now for yourself without apology or compromise.